Good evening. Our broadcast from Chicago will be starting in just a few minutes. This is a sound check, 8:45 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Microphone test 54321. To be or not to be? That is the question. Microphone test 54321. Good evening. It's about 3 minutes before 9 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Our broadcast will be starting in just a few minutes. This is a sound check, microphone test, 54321. Microphone test, 54321. To be or not to be. Good evening. The time is 9 p.m. U.S. Central Time. This program is coming to you live from Chicago. And in the news at this hour, Utah Senator Mitt Romney and former Defense Secretary Jim Mattis's extraordinary critique of President Donald Trump was very powerful. Let me correct my statement there. That was the senator describing the statement by Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski said she is struggling now with whether to support Trump's re-election and even suggested Mattis's comments could cause the dam to break in the GOP. I thought General Mattis's words were true and honest and necessary and overdue, Senator Murkowski told reporters. I felt like perhaps we are getting to a point where we can be more honest with the concerns we might hold internally and have the courage of our own convictions to speak up. Also joining the ranks of those supporting General Mattis's position, former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, who in addition dismissed Trump's assertion that the president had fired the general in 2018. Benjamin Crump, attorney for the family members of George Floyd, killed during a police arrest in Minneapolis, thanked the legal team working alongside him during a memorial service this afternoon. It's going to take a united effort fighting in the courtroom and outside the courtroom to get justice for George Floyd, Crump said. It was not the coronavirus pandemic that killed George Floyd. I want to make it clear on the record. It was the other pandemic that we're far too familiar with in America, the pandemic of racism and discrimination that killed George Floyd. Here are the latest coronavirus statistics from the U.S. Center for Disease Control. Estimated total cases now in the United States, 1,842,100. That is up by an estimated 14,600 from yesterday's figure. The death toll now stands at 107,029, and that is up from yesterday's number by 827. More news in just a moment. Now this.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
2:30 past 9 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Continuing with our news report. In economic news, nearly half of commercial retail rents throughout the country were not paid in April or May. Companies as big as Starbucks say the financial devastation from the shutdown has left them unable to pay their full property bills on time. Some companies warn they will not be able to pay rent for months. As Heather Long, economics correspondent for the Washington Post, reported in today's issue, the danger will be in the form of the coming chain reaction. Unpaid rents put landlords at risk of bankruptcy. In turn, commercial real estate prices fall. Jobs at property management companies are eliminated. Banks and private investors become unwilling to lend to real estate projects. And cash-strapped city and local governments see the property tax revenue stream dry up. The number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits dropped to below 2 million last week for the first time since March, but the rate remains alarmingly high. The latest count of 1.8 million new filers brings the total to 42.6 million Americans who have filed jobless claims since the shutdown began in mid-March. The good news is the country may have turned the corner in the coronavirus pandemic, but the bad news is the economy will do no more than limp along if it has to carry millions and millions of jobless workers who cannot support themselves and are running out of benefits to pay the bills. That from Chris Rupke, chief economist at MUFG Bank of New York. On Wall Street, not much change on the three major indexes today. Dow Jones Industrial Average up a mere 12 points to close at 26,282. NASDAQ lost a bit, down 67 points. S&P 500 also down slightly at minus 11. National weather report for tomorrow. Excessive heat will continue over central California and parts of the Southwest, including Las Vegas and Phoenix. Severe thunderstorms possible for the upper Midwest, southern plains, and mid-Atlantic. Florida, already soaking wet, has still more rain on the way, and Tropical Storm Cristobal reduced intensity as it passed over land, dumping heavy rains on Guatemala and El Salvador. Currently, with winds in the more modest 35 to 45 mile per hour range, the storm is forecast to re-emerge over the southern Gulf of Mexico and move northward into the northern Gulf of Mexico this weekend. It is possible it could re-intensify to at or near hurricane level. For Chicagoland, tonight partly cloudy, no mention of rain, overnight low mid-60s. Friday, tomorrow, late morning and early afternoon showers possible, rain chance 30%. Otherwise mostly sunny, a bit breezy, southwest winds up to 20 miles an hour, high in the upper 80s. Current conditions, a few clouds, 82 degrees, relative humidity 51%. AccuWeather radar shows showers, nothing too turbulent, over eastern Iowa, southern Indiana, and northern Kentucky. Chicagoland, clear for at least 200 miles in all directions. 9:06 p.m. our time, and again here at Radio City we have 82 degrees.
Live from Chicago, Variety Broadcast presents Radio Classics. Now here's your host, Tom Edwards.
80s group by the name of The Babies. Turn and Walk Away. I remember that one. That's a goodie. 17 minutes after 9 o'clock. Shall we open the dictionary and look up our word of the day? It's an easy one today, if our trusty robot voice would oblige.
Posture.
Once more, if you please.
Posture.
Posture. Posture. Now, the word, of course, is also a noun, like your posture when you're standing. But today's word of the day is looking at the verb form, which means to cause to assume a given posture. Pose. Second definition, to strike a pose for effect. Third definition, to assume an artificial or pretentious attitude, like a politician posturing for the cameras. And the word comes to us from the Latin verb ponere, the past participle of positus. You remember conjugating verbs in Latin, high school Latin class? Boy, I do. Sounds like something you would do when you're making a salad, doesn't it? Here, conjugate those carrots for me while I slice the onion. Anyway, posture, Posture. That's our word of the day from the good folks at Merriam-Webster, the dictionary people, at m-w.com. And in just a minute, our trivia winner. Don't go away.
I am stuck on Band-Aid brand 'cause Band-Aid stuck on me.
I am stuck on Band-Aid 'cause Band-Aid stuck on me.
'Cause they hold on tight from the back up and they cling it so he said.
Announcing an improved stay-on adhesive on Band-Aid brand adhesive bandages from Johnson & Johnson. You'll notice the difference because it stays on you better than anything else you can buy.
I am stuck on Band-Aid 'cause Band-Aid stuck on me.
Okay, audience, big round of applause for our first trivia winner of the night. And that would be Scott. Scott is using the screen name Thomas, but I happen to know his nickname. And he's on the board with $20, gave the correct answer, Machu Picchu. And the country, name of the country we were looking for is Peru. 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Here's one of my favorite girls, Miss Eartha Kitt.
I'm just an old-fashioned girl with an old-fashioned mind. Not sophisticated, I'm the plain and simple kind. I want an old-fashioned house with an old-fashioned fence and an old-fashioned millionaire. I'd like a plain, simple car, a Cerise Cadillac, long enough to have a bowling alley in the back. I want an old-fashioned house with an old-fashioned fence and an old-fashioned millionaire. I'll stay weaving at my loom, be no trouble to my groom, if he'll keep the piles of money mounting. In our cottage there will be a soundproof nursery, not to wake the baby while I'm counting. I like the old-fashioned flowers, violets are for me. Have them made in diamonds by the man at Tiffany. I want an old-fashioned house with an old-fashioned fence and an old-fashioned millionaire. I'm just a pilgrim at heart, oh so pure and genteel. Catch me in Las Vegas when I'm at the spinning wheel. I want an old-fashioned house with an old-fashioned fence and an old-fashioned millionaire. I'll ask for such simple things when my birthday occurs. 2 apartment buildings that are labeled hers and hers. I want an old-fashioned house with an old-fashioned fence and an old-fashioned millionaire. I like Chopin and Bizet and the songs of yesterday, string quartets and Polynesian carols. But the music that excels is the sound of oil wells as they slurp, slurp, slurp into the barrels. My little home will be quaint as an old parasol, and instead of carpets I'll have money wall to wall. I want an old-fashioned old-fashioned house with an old-fashioned fence and an old-fashioned millionaire.
Well, current conditions being what they are, I think she better shoot for an old-fashioned billionaire. After inflation, a millionaire just ain't going to cut it. 23 minutes after 9 o'clock in the evening in the beautiful, windy city of Chicago. Things have calmed down a bit in my neck of the woods. I do hope it is also the case where you are. Now, that's not to say it's, entirely quiet, but we are not experiencing any of the real commotion and rioting or near rioting that had been going on. So little by little, perhaps things are settling down. Let's hope so. All right, let's get to our next trivia question. First, we'll do this.
It's raisins that make Post Raisin Bran so wonderful. It's raisins that make Post Raisin Bran so different. It's raisins that make Post Raisin Bran so raisiny. More raisins, lots more raisins, more raisins than you have ever seen before. If you like raisins, have juicy raisins. You like Post Raisin Bran more.
Post, the more Raisin Bran.
And here comes our next question. Put your thinking cap on, get your typing fingers ready, and this is our Name That Tune category. $25 is the value of the question, and we'll see how well you remember this song. I'll give you just a wee bit of a hint. 1970s, and it's a group. All right, see how well you can do with that. Here we go. Here's the audio. And remember now, it's a two-part question. We need both the singer, or singers if it's plural, singer and the song. Get ready, here it comes.
Must we say goodbye each time we part? My heart wants to die.
Okay, good luck. Type your answer now.
I tried to make it Sunday, but I got so damn depressed that I set my sights on Monday and I got myself undressed. I ain't ready for the altar, but I do agree there's times when a woman sure can be a friend of mine. But I keep on thinking about you, Sister Golden Hair Surprise, and I just can't live without you. Can't you see it in my eyes? I've been one poor correspondent, and I've been too hard to find, but it doesn't mean you ain't been on my mind. Will you saying I just can't make it. Well, I keep on thinking about you, Sister Golden Hair Surprise, and I just can't live without you. saying I just can't make it.
There we have America, Sister Golden Hair. Surprise! 28 minutes after 9 o'clock. Welcome to the 4th of June. It's a Thursday. And as we look backward on this date in history, in the year 1989, Chinese crackdown on protests leads to the Tiananmen Square massacre. Oh, let's not even go there. God forbid. 2003, on this date, Martha Stewart was indicted by a federal grand jury. The government hit her and her former stockbroker with a 9-count indictment, including charges of obstruction of justice, securities fraud, conspiracy, and making false statements. They really did throw the book at her, didn't they? I guess they just wanted to make an example of her. I don't know. 1919, on this date, Congress passes the 19th Amendment. Now, there's an easy way to remember it, huh? 19th Amendment in the year 1919, and it was women's suffrage. Congratulations, women were granted the right to vote. 1942, the Battle of Midway in World War II began. Famous birthdays today: American actress, filmmaker, and humanitarian Angelina Jolie, 45 years old. The late Rosalind Russell, born 1907. Freddie Fender, 1937. England's King George, who was the reigning monarch at the time of the American Revolution, born 1738. Kind of light today on famous birthdays. You know, when I go to look those things up, it's got a whole list of people, and it will say that they are celebrities, stars, whatnot. It will say, like, YouTube celebrity. Oh, okay. You get to be a celebrity now if you're on YouTube. Well, look at me. Ha ha. Another one, it says TikTok celebrity. It'll say Joe Schmo, born on this date in 1989, and he's a TikTok star. What in the world is TikTok? TikTok. Never even heard of it. All right. And finally, on this date in 1876, the first express train running coast to coast crossed the United States in 83 hours. Think of that. Isn't modern travel time wonderful? A mere 83 hours after leaving New York City, the Transcontinental Express train arrived in San Francisco. That any human being could travel across the entire nation in less than 4 days was inconceivable to people at that time. Well, we'll get on a train ourselves. This one is not non-stop, though. We're going to have an overnight in Georgia with Gladys Knight and the Pips on Radio Classics.
LA proved too much for the man. Too much for the man. He couldn't make it. So he's leaving the life he's come to know. Ooh. He said he's going back to find. Going back to find. Ooh, what's left of his world. The world he left behind not so long ago. He's leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. Leaving on the midnight train. Yeah. Said he's going back to a simpler place and time. Oh, yes, he is. Now be with him. I know you will. On that midnight train to Georgia. Even on that midnight train. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. World is his and hers alone. He kept dreaming. someday he'd be a star,
A superstar, but he didn't get far.
but he sure found out the hard way that dreams don't always come true. Oh no. So he pawned all his hopes, and he even sold his old car. Bought a one-way ticket back to the life he once knew. Oh yes he did. He said he would. Oh, he's leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. Yeah, said he's going back to find a simpler place and time. Oh, yeah, and I'm gonna be with him on that midnight train to Georgia. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. Oh, he's leaving on the midnight train to Georgia. Yeah, ooh, y'all. Said he's going back to find a simpler place and time. Ooh, y'all. I've got to be with him. Oh, that midnight train to Georgia. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. Gonna board the midnight train and ride for love. Gonna board, gotta board the midnight train and go for love. Gonna board the midnight train and go my world, his world.
And there we have the musical talents of Gladys Knight and her backup group, the famous Pips. Midnight Train to Georgia, 9:35 p.m., 25 minutes until 10 o'clock U.S. Central Time. Tom Edwards, your host for Radio Classics. Glad to be with you. We have a trivia winner. I'll tell you about that in just a moment.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy's got nuts, Mounds don't. Almond Joy's got real milk chocolate, coconut and munchy nuts too. Mounds got deep dark chocolate and chewy coconut. Ooh. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Peter Paul, Almond Joy's got nuts, Peter Paul, Mounds don't. Because sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
All right, let's have a nice round of applause for Sherry, who won the round this time. She came up with our Name That Tune. And the name of the group, Jay and the Americans. The name of the song, Cara Mia.
Must we say goodbye each time we part? My heart wants to die. Darling, hear my prayer. Cara Mia fair. I'll be your love till the end.
Jay and the Americans. Nice 1970s tune, Cara Mia, on Radio Classics. While I was shopping around on the internet today looking for some good material to put together trivia questions and so forth, I came upon an article about vintage cars. Do you remember vent windows? Okay, now picture yourself sitting in the front seat. All right, now on your left, of course, is your regular window, whether you have the button that makes it go electrically up and down or you have the old-fashioned crankety-crank window. All right, just forward of your regular window, they used to have cars where it was a rotating ventilator window. It was triangular shaped. You remember those? And they had various names. Some called them a quarter window. I suppose that was based on they're about 1/4 size of the regular window, maybe. Then also, how do you say this word? Do you say valence or valance, like a drapery? Sometimes they were called a valence window. I remember as a kid hearing some people also call them fly windows. Now, I don't know if that was supposed to be like referring to the fact that they kind of look like little wings so the car would fly, or if you opened them up and stuck them outward, the bugs hit them, you caught flies on the window. I'm not sure. Anyway, in this article, it was interesting on Wikipedia. Early on, General Motors put those on the 1940s Pontiac models, and those had a proprietary name. They called them Ventaplanes. And if I recall correctly, 1968 was the last year they offered them, at least on the major American cars. Now, when I was younger, junior high, high school age, I paid a lot of attention to cars. I think most boys do at that age. I could tell you any car, front or back, coming or going from 300 feet away. They all had a very distinctive look. They all kind of look alike now. But anyway, I think 1968 was about the last year they offered those. The main reason, according to this article, they got rid of them because was of turbulence and leakage. All right. That's really something. 20 minutes till 10 o'clock. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with our next trivia question.
There's just one Schlitz, yeah, nothing else comes near. When you're out of Schlitz,
just ask.
You're out of beer.
What makes Schlitz irreplaceable? Taste it. This is the most carefully brewed beer in the world. It takes 1,174 careful steps to create that special taste. Real gusto in the great light beer.
If you like it light with a big taste too, there's only one brew that will do when you're out of Schlitz.
Unthinkable.
You're out of beer. Real gusto in the great light beer Schlitz.
The beer that made Milwaukee famous.
Yeah, Scott says, of course, he remembers those. His first car was a 1955. I was not too far behind. My very first car was a 1967. Now, I bought it used, freshman year at college. If I recall correctly, it was an 8-year-old car at the time. A white model, 4-door, 1967 Oldsmobile 88. A Delmont 88. Remember those? It was a nice big car, boy. Pack a lot of people into that, have a lot of fun. All right, here comes our next trivia question. Put your thinking cap on, get your typing fingers ready. And by the way, our scoreboard looks like this at the present time. Sherry is leading with $25 and Scott hot on her heels with 20. And here comes our next question. This one, $25. The category is medicine. All right, if you're lying in your hospital bed, minding your own business, peacefully watching television, and a big, mean-looking nurse comes swooping in, holding a hypodermic syringe with a needle the size of a whaling harpoon. Aren't you loving this? All right, she says she needs to give you a subcutaneous injection. What is she aiming for? For $25, tell me, where does a subcutaneous injection go? Musically, up next, Helen Reddy for you.
You're my world, you're every breath I take. You're my world, you're every move I make. Other eyes see the stars up in the sky, but for me they shine within your eyes as the trees reach for the sun above. So my arms reach out to you for love. With your hand resting in mine, I feel a power so divine. You're my world, you are my night and day. You're my world, you're every prayer I pray. If our love ceases to be, then it's the end of my world for me. With your hand resting in mine, I feel a power so divine. You're my world, you are my night and day. You're my world, you're every prayer I pray. If our love ceases to be, then it's the end of my world, end of my world, end of my world for
Lovely lady, lovely voice. That's Helen Reddy, You're My World. And if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, wonder what ever happened to her. Well, I got curious about that some months ago, actually, and went and looked it up. Remember, she was from Australia. She retired from show business, retired from singing entirely, and she does charity work now. So she found another calling. I miss her. I wish she was still singing. She had some fabulous recordings. All right, we have a winner in this round of trivia. Don't go away. We'll tell you about that in just a moment.
You worked too hard, you ate too much, the cheesecake made you greedy. Let your aching head and stomach hear this message from old Speedy. Alka-Seltzer, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Ah, those Speedy Alka-Seltzer bubbles burst into action to relieve your upset stomach and aching head fast. It was only as directed. Oh, what a relief it is. What a relief.
I guess you need some Alka-Seltzer for that very upsetting visual that I gave you about the giant nurse coming into your hospital room with a giant needle, huh? No, they're not really that big. Even for big people, I guess. All right. Congratulations, Sherry won that round with the correct answer. So she adds to her winnings. That was a $25 question under the category of medicine. Subcutaneous was what we were looking for. That goes under the skin. All right, so our scoreboard looks like this. Sherry has 50, Scott has 20, and here comes your next question. All right. This one is under the category of sports, also 25 smackolas. His name is George Blanda, B-L-A-N-D-A, Blanda or Blanda. All right, he lived from 1927 to 2010, was an American professional football star who played in both the American National Football League and both the American and the National, AFL and NFL. Blanda still holds the all-time record for playing 26 seasons of professional football, the most in the sport's history. All right, now tell me any two of the professional teams he played for, and you can use either league, either AFL or NFL. All right, I need two answers. Any two of the teams on which George Blanda was a team member. If you don't know, take a guess because we don't penalize for wrong answers. So good luck. Give it a go. The singer, those were the days, my friend. That's an Israeli folk song. I like that. 9:53 p.m., 7 minutes till 10 o'clock at Radio Classics. And we have another winner in our latest round of trivia. Tell you about that in just a minute.
The new member of the Ford family of flying cars, the Thurs.